So last night I took Vicky's truck out after dark to check out how well the headlights work. Well, they work okay, but they're not aimed very well. The driver's side's still pretty low, but usable. The passenger side, though, is aimed straight at the ground. No good. So job number one, Wednesday morning, was to try and get these headlights aimed. The problem is I've got a headlight screw that's stripped out, and I can't run that screw in far enough to aim the headlight up where I need it. So I jump into Malibu with the dogs, and we head down to see Mark. I just hope he's got something that I can use down there to replace this headlight screw. I know these things are difficult to find sometimes, especially if you need the plastic insert that goes into the core support. As we make our way through downtown Hebron, we go past Heyman's Dairy Bar. And guess whose noses are sniffing and they're drooling and licking their lips? They can smell the chicken sandwiches and the hamburgers. They're going to have to settle for some A1 dog treats though today. This is the first time I've had Scrappy back down there since her last trip when she refused to leave. She didn't want to get back into Malibu. I had to carry her out there. Anyway, I hand over this screw to one of Mark's associates, and I don't think he was really understanding what I was trying to find. I know, I handed that screw to him and he said, "Is that an exhaust stud?"
Oh, did he really?
No, he didn't.
Young grasshopper here. I'm trying to get him pushed into shape, so we'll get him, Bill. Between me and you, he'll be...
Oh, I'll get something out of him, one way or the other.
That's something for Uncle Bucko.
No
way.
So I grab up my stuff and I head back to the shop, and I look in the rearview mirror and I see a major problem. I look at the gauges, everything looks fine, but in the rearview mirror, there's trouble brewing. This Malibu is smoking like crazy. Who knows what the hell's gone wrong now? You see what this is?
What is it? Ah. Chumpy showed up with something, did he?
Now that Jeremy's got his throttle cable for his skid loader, he should be able to start cleaning up his mess up there at the farm pretty soon. But first, he's got to get this turn signal switch rebuilt for Vicky's C10. So I help him for a few minutes work on this turn signal switch, and then I figure I could probably go ahead and head to Columbus and go pick up my parts at Jegs. I ordered in another 700R4 governor recalibration kit to fix the shift points in Vicky's truck. I also ordered in another set of spark plugs for the Malibu and some power valves so I can start tuning the carburetors on both the car and the truck. What do you got here, Miss Kimmy?
I have invoices for Miss Vicky.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's all the stuff.
That's all the stuff Uncle Terry has sold us in 2021.
Yes.
Well, we thank you guys.
All of 2021. Yes.
See, this is nothing compared to your A1 stack, which is probably about like that.
Oh, Uncle Terry. You know what? That's probably true.
I know that's true because you got to go down there and buy all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
All the other stuff.
Got all my stuff ready. Thank you, man. I appreciate you
All ready
guys.
for you, Miss Vicky.
While I'm finishing up at Jegs, Jeremy's back at the shop, finishing up the installation on the new turn signal switch. He's got the steering wheel back on, the turn signals and the headlights are working. He's just about ready to take it out for a test drive, so he can make sure that the steering wheel's on straight while the truck's going straight up the road. Having the turn signals, headlights, taillights, and brake lights all back in working order puts us one step closer to putting Vicky in the driver's seat. But before we turn Vicky loose in this truck, Jeremy and I want to make sure that everything in this truck is tip-top 100%, ready to go. Anyway, while Jeremy's doing the test drive, Kenny's back at the shop preparing to bring the Malibu in and put it on the lift. This thing is an absolute disaster underneath. It's evidently burst a transmission cooler line, and it's completely covered everything underneath the car with transmission fluid. So Kenny puts it on the lift, coats everything in degreaser, brings a garden hose out, and washes down everything underneath the Malibu to get it cleaned up. When Kenny got done, you would never know that anything had ever happened. The car is spotless from front to back. But we've definitely got a problem with the transmission cooler line, and I don't have the fittings. So I made a call to Uncle Terry at Jegg's, who lives just around the corner from our house, and he made arrangements to bring me the fittings when he got off work.
What doing?
Fixing something.
Fixing something.
The transmission cooler lines wasn't tied up very well. And it got over against the header and into the flywheel.
Oh.
And sent me home in a smoke show today from Mark's.
Is that why the floor's all wet in here?
Well, Kenny had to clean the entire underside of the car.
Oh.
The whole car, including the back bumper, was covered in transmission fluid. And I look like the Beverly freaking Hillbillies coming home. I barely made it in the driveway.
Hey, at least these things happened close to home. I bet all this oil's gonna be stinky when those get hot.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thanks to Uncle Terry, I was able to get the transmission cooler lines repaired and get back underway. I had planned to do some carburetor tuning later this evening, and that would not be possible if I couldn't get this cooler line fixed. But in reality, I wasn't going to make much headway regardless.
Guess what?
Huh?
It's 1 in the morning. What are you doing?
Working. Trying to make content.
At 1 in the morning.
Well,
And everybody else has gone home.
yeah,
But I'm up.
you're up.
Barely.
So what we're doing is we are going to make some changes to this 750 Brawler carburetor. This is a brand new Brawler carburetor. It's never been apart. This is the first time anyone's ever had their hands in it. And I'm going to make a power valve change to take care of a part throttle off idle stumble that's causing problems with reaction times and causing a problem with 60-foot times. And
We don't need stumbles.
no,
That's not good.
you know, my shit don't stumble
All right.
ever. So I dig into this carburetor and remove the power valve. I was shocked to find it had a 4.5 valve. Usually they come stock with a 6.5. So I upgrade it to an 8.5 and go to put it
All
back
right,
together.
What's next?
All right, so we're gonna put this on here.
Hold on, let me get in here.
Line it up in the dowels. And then I take our fuel bowl. And here's a trick, you gotta use your index finger and hold up on the bottom of the carburetor accelerator pump, and then use your other index finger on your other hand to hold the accelerator pump cam down. And it just goes right on, just like that. And you screw your bowl screws in. And we're golden. The Malibu has a mechanical fuel pump, so I prime the engine with a secondary accelerator pump squirter and fire it up. Once the engine fires up, I carefully check for leaks on the carburetor, and then it's time to go for a test drive. You ready?
I guess.
Since it's dark out and you can't hardly see anything inside the car, I take Vicky with me to take video so I can leave the interior light on and she can film. The power valve made an improvement, but I wanted to make one more change to the accelerator pump cam and try again. I made 2 or 3 pulls on the Malibu, and the throttle response continued to get better and better. However, we had another problem that crept up on me last night that I was not prepared for. The ring and pinion has begun to make noise in the Malibu already. So I call up Rich, and he said to bring it in immediately. I want to take a look at it. Now, the ring and pinion that came with the car when I bought it from Billy was an off-brand because Billy wasn't really concerned with racing it. And speaking of racing it, I was planning on racing it this Saturday. But if Rich can't get this thing fixed, that's probably not going to happen. So as I pull the car in, I've got my fingers crossed that Rich can pull off a miracle. They work on anything and everything at Lucore Automotive. Everything from small block Chevys to big block Olds, Buicks, AMCs, Jeeps, Mustangs, and basically anything that you could possibly imagine as a daily driver. Rich puts the Malibu straight on the lift and starts pulling the rear end cover off to see how bad the damage is. The backlash on the gear set is still within spec. However, the pattern on the gear has changed from perfect to anything but. So he goes ahead and pulls the carrier out to check the bearings, and we find all kinds of problems that sends me on a trip to Jegs. Now, I've got the dogs with me, and they've been pinned up in the truck cab ever since I left the house this morning. So I thought this will be a good opportunity to let them out, let them go potty. Big mistake. As soon as Scrappy's feet hit the ground, she saw those ducks out in the pond, and she just couldn't resist. Now, Scrappy's never been in water, but she learned today, in short order, that that's not carpet. She can't just run across that water like she thought she was going to. So I throw the dogs back in the truck, turn the heat on and the air conditioning to dry out Scrappy, and I go inside to wait on my parts. I can't imagine what my truck's going to look like when I finally get back out there with that wet dog. Anyway, about the time I'm collecting my parts and headed back to Lucore, Uncle Bucko is returning from his trip to the dentist.
Mr. Bucko,
Yeah.
you went to the dentist.
Yes.
How did it go?
I got two pulled.
Can you smile? So voice to text isn't working so well with a numb mouth today.
No, but I still saw people F off.
Were you numb enough? Did it hurt?
No, it didn't hurt. It took forever.
While Jeremy's in recovery in my living room from his dentist trip, I'm making my way back to Lucore. I drop off the parts, and Rich wants to open everything up and check it before I leave, including this new Mosier diff cover. I guess that's the end of my chrome differential cover that the kids were making fun of the other day in Billy's video. Anyway, back at the shop, Miss Harley's in there working on shipping orders out, and Jeremy has gotten himself back to work on the rear brakes on Vicky's C10. Evidently, there was a problem with the wheel cylinders. They're sticking. So Jeremy gets on the phone to Mark, and lo and behold, Jeremy once again loses trying to play Stump the Chump with Mark Huntsman.
What did you call for?
Wheel cylinders.
For a what?
64 Chevy C10.
But really?
Yeah,
And did I have them installed?
it appears.
Imagine
appears.
that.
Not my fault either, is it?
It's, well, technically no.
No.
Indirectly, yes.
So all this brake drum talk about me burning brakes up, not my fault.
You're just indirectly associated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called shit slides downhill.
Anyway, two 1965 C10s with them.
Lucky there.
What do you think of that? Look at that. These are beautiful.
Jeremy wanted to make clear that this time, the brake issue was not his fault. The wheel cylinders that were installed on this truck had a problem, and they seize up and won't retract, which caused the brake drums to overheat and the brakes to stick. So Jeremy installs all new wheel cylinders and all new parts kits, and we start bleeding the brakes, getting ready to test drive this thing one more time.
How they feel? Like shit. That's not what you said.
They're perfect. Perfect.
Of course.
They're perfect.
What was the problem?
You. No.
So things are going pretty good for us inside on the brakes, but outside, not so much for Kenny Powers, who's trying to get his S10 to run, and it's not cooperating.
Kenny, that's a hog-ass cam, son.
Kenny's S10 has evidently caught COVID or something. I don't know what happened to this thing, but one day he pulled in and it sounded like he had put a top fuel camshaft in this thing, but it doesn't run like it's got top fuel engine in it. He and Jeremy have been trying to diagnose the problem with this thing off and on all day. That thing sounds badass.
Sounds like a pile of shit.
It's the base to the coils.
Kenny, what's the plan for the S10 now?
I don't know yet. More parts.
throw more parts at it. I'm going to make you a deal.
It don't run good enough to do anything fun with it.
Bet.
No, I'm telling you, it don't.
Listen to me.
It ain't going over 20 mile an hour.
Listen to me. How much have you spent in parts on that thing so far?
More than it's worth.
400 bucks or more.
Yep, more.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do. You can throw another few hundred parts at it, $100 in parts at it. And if it doesn't run right, I'll let you smash it with the excavator. We'll make a video of it and you get all the proceeds. That way you get your money back. How's that?
That sounds good. And fun.
When can we start?
I don't know.
Kenny's not quite ready to give up yet, but it'll make you feel a little bit better with your experience knowing that eventually, one way or the other, you'll get your money back.
This one driving me nuts though. Wondering what it is.
Good. The madder you get,
You're already there. Yeah, so are you.
the madder you get at it, the better the video will be when you get a hold of the excavator.
Exactly.
Have you ever run an excavator?
Once or twice.
Oh boy.
Before he smashes it, can we build a jump over the creek
Yes.
and jump it over the creek first?
Safe enough. The body's probably gonna roll one direction and the chassis is gonna go the other.
It's okay.
It doesn't matter,
He's
we've-
got a seatbelt on and his Marlboro out of his mouth. He is in. You in for that one, KP? That'd be a rough ride, bud.
Yeah, I'm very horrible.
We'll put 2 pillows underneath your ass. So it's a
Better
little
put
more
some on
cushion.
his head because when it knows dives into the corner, it flips over upside
You
down.
got an old open face helmet here, Bill?
I could come up with one.
Oh, perfect.
I think I have one.
Open face helmet, 2 pillows.
And a cape. Listen, knock it,
Power to the
listen,
moon.
listen, knock the back glass out of it and let the cape come out the back glass so it blows in the breeze behind the truck.
We could move the cars right here. You could get a run from that side of the garage.
Oh no, we're gonna move the race car trailer and hit it over
Over
here.
You got workers' comp?
What? Oh, I got my eye on Kenny Powers now.
10 feet or 10 minutes, bub.
I thought you said this thing was ready to test drive. The hubcaps aren't on.
I'm not putting them on until we're done.
Well, why aren't we done?
We ain't done with the test drive yet.
It should test drive fine, right?
Well, it should be better than your perfect brakes from before since it's now.
Are you having doubts?
No.
The headlights look pretty even on the garage door.
Yeah, I adjusted them.
You did?
Yeah.
How did you adjust them?
I know things,
Oh.
unlike a lot of other people around here.
Oh, yes, Jeremy. Jeremy the Brilliant.
Well, at least you're learning.
How far are we going? How far do you trust this thing?
Head on out.
So, it's already, see that? It's already in overdrive. It's already in overdrive.
That's your dysfunctional crap.
Well, that's why I wanted to work on the governor. That's the next thing we're going to work on is the governor. All right, we're stopped. Ready?
Yep.
There's second. There's third. And there's overdrive.
Ta-da!
So we need to take the governor out and change the weights and springs in it so that it holds the shifts a little bit longer, especially overdrive. But outside of that, this thing's cherry right now. We'll see how long your brake job lasts.
Uh-huh.
Oh shit if they
That's
seize
probably
up
because
the
I
way.
replaced everything. Unlike here, no, the wheel cylinders are fine. They're brand
Hey,
new.
that
Look
guy
at them.
I bought it from just put brakes all the way around it right before I bought it.
Yeah,
It
well,
hadn't even been up the road
I
yet.
guarantee you they sat exposed with no lines on them for at least a week when it rained.
No, I don't think so. He had it in the garage.
Uh-huh, yeah. I bet if I pull them wheel cylinders apart, it says a different story.
I don't know, and I don't give a shit.
Oh,
as
well,
long
we're
as
gonna,
it's fixed.
I'm gonna tear them apart. Yep.
I don't care what you do.
Well, it should stop way better now, seeing as all 4 wheels are stopping. Brake inspector guy.
See, this is why we need to fix this freaking transmission. There's always going to be somebody negative in the comments. Like they're going to, like you could have the best video in the world and they're going to make a negative comment about something that they took out of context, and they're going to have something negative to say. You can't do anything about that. But I've seen a few people say, well, Bill drives Vicky's truck, she never gets to drive it. Okay, Einsteins. Vicky's not driving this truck until it's 100% ready to safely drive up the road. And that may never happen with Jeremy working on it. So, we're making sure the thing is perfect. Welcome back, everybody. So the last 2 days here at the shop have been something else. They have not gone according to plan, obviously. I was making some pretty good progress on the Malibu's carburetor when I had to stop due to the gear starting to make noise in the rear end, and I didn't want to cause any further damage. But it turns out it's not really going to matter anyway. The bearings and everything are shot in it. The metal from the gear went through all the carrier bearings and pinion bearings and pretty much ruined everything anyway. I think the axle bearings and everything are going to be okay, but obviously the carrier and the pinion bearings, they're definitely shot. So I went to Jegs today, and Scrappy went for a little swim in their pond out there. But Uncle Terry got me hooked up. I called the 11th Avenue store, called Uncle Terry, and he had all my parts in stock up at the warehouse, which was actually closer to me when I was at Lucore than if I would have gone to the main store. So that worked out really good. So this time, we're going to put a 410 gear in the Malibu because we've had a chance to go race the car and got a time slip on it. And I felt that when you go into high gear in the Malibu, it was a little bit sluggish in high gear. The gear ratio was just a little bit too tall for it. It really needed a 410 or maybe a 430 gear ratio would have probably been optimum for quarter mile racing that car on motor. And also I would really like to have the RPMs up a little bit higher in overdrive, so that when you're cruising the car in overdrive at 55, 60 miles an hour, it's in a little bit better position to run in overdrive with the converter locked up. I'm not too worried about the interstate driving because in all honesty, 65, 70 mile an hour is plenty fast for me to cruise that thing on the interstate. And it'll probably do that at about 2,500. It was going 75, 76 miles an hour at 2,500 RPM with a 373. So I'm fine with 70 miles an hour at 2,500 RPM or something in that ballpark, so long as I can get the car to run a little bit better in the quarter mile, a little bit better in the eighth, and put it in a little bit better position to use overdrive at slower speeds with the converter locked up. So I think the car is going to run a little bit better. Unfortunately, I wasn't intending to change the gear ratio right now. I was really wanting to go make some hits on the car with just the suspension and nothing else, leaving everything alone, just making the suspension change and going out and getting a time slip, because I think the car is going to be considerably faster with just the suspension change. The gear ratio change, will it make a big difference? We're not talking tenths of a tenth of a second, but I'm sure it'll probably go a few hundredths faster, at least with the 410 gear in it. And we're going to get rid of the chrome rear end cover that the kids are making fun of. I went ahead and bought a Mosier girdle rear end cover for it to try and help strengthen it a little bit. Rich thought that might be a good idea to try and help keep the caps from moving around and walking. So we're going to do that. Ultimately, is this rear end going to be what I stay with? Probably not. I intend to most likely put a Mosier 9-inch in it eventually, a bolt-in 9-inch. And the reason I say that is because I intend to probably push that car down into the 9-second range eventually, down the road in the future, not right now. But the reason I'm sticking with the 7.5 for right now, at least, is because I want to document how far we can push the stock rear end without, of course, damaging the car or wrecking the car or anything like that. They usually give a warning sign, just like last night. The rear end, the ring and pinion started to ring and howl a little bit. And that's your sign. That's your warning sign. Don't don't keep pushing your luck. I took it straight to Lucore, and I know that Rich did a wonderful job setting that thing up. We took it straight to Edgewater, made good passes. We cruised it and drove it all over the place. Sprayed it with nitrous. It never made a noise until I started testing it last night. So I feel like the ring and pinion that we used probably was not up to snuff, but hopefully this new Richmond set will hang in there for me. And we're going to use a little bit better bearings this time. The bearing kit that Billy had was a kind of a cheap offshore deal. So I'm hoping that these bearings and this ring and pinion do a better job. Now, tomorrow, I plan on taking the governor out of the 64 C10 and working on that 700 R4 transmission. And this is going to be much easier because this truck, the governor is right out there where you can get, like, this thing is so easy to work on. It's so easy. I love it. And the governor, I can take the governor completely out of this thing, and I can have Kenny or somebody help me tomorrow with filming so that I can do an in-depth video on tuning the 700 R4 governor for shift points and the TV cable. We'll go through all that tomorrow. That's my plan anyway. So hang in there, guys. I don't know if I'm going to make it this weekend. We were planning on going this weekend to Morning View, Kentucky. As far as I know, the kids still plan on going. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it with a Malibu or not. We'll see. I have full confidence in Rich at Lucore. He'll most likely have the car done. We'll see. You never know. It's racing and race cars. You never know. Anyway, good night, everybody. We'll see you probably tomorrow.